Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name's James Murray, CEO and founder here at Cameron James. Guys, as always, please subscribe, like, share and comment if you find these videos useful, and also to have 2 weekly videos from myself on similar topics. As always as well, if you'd like to book a free initial consultation, book in via our Calendly link below, or even drop me a WhatsApp and we can start the conversation to see how we can help you. So today's topic is the James Hay Modular iSIPP review and charges. Why are we doing this video today? We've had a couple of clients of late where we've transferred away from the James Hay SIPP for various reasons, so we thought it was useful to give a little bit of feedback on our process with those clients. So first of all, I'm going to start off with the charges, which is pretty simple. The James Hay SIPP in the UK is pretty decent in terms of a charging schedule. I believe it's £200 per annum and then 30 basis points down to 1 basis point depending upon the size of your assets. Obviously, the larger your assets, the smaller your annual charges can be. There's also a range of other charges which you can find on their website by typing in their charging fee schedule, the typical stuff, benefit crystallization events, etc, etc. In terms of charge, though, I'd say they're probably middle of the road. They're not the cheapest out there and they're not the most expensive out there. More importantly, I was going to talk about sort of our review or our process in working with them. So what was our review in working with James Hay? So out of the couple of clients that we transferred out, we actually found dealing with James Hay a little bit difficult. The reason for this is that getting the information from the SIPP provider was actually quite difficult. It actually took quite a long period of time. There was a couple of cases where we actually asked for final salary, defined benefit pension transfer information from seeding schemes such as Mercer, Capita, etc. This information came back to us before the basic information of a DC SIPP from James Hay. We're not quite sure in these cases why it took so much, took a little bit longer than it perhaps should have. The other thing that was interesting with the clients, for example, one of the clients was based in Spain. Her pension pot was reaching £1 million, and at the point that we spoke to her, her pension pot with James Hay was worth 900,000. Now, the client was looking to have more freedom whilst living in Spain, and so she wanted to choose an international SIPP. We actually recommended to her the Novia Global International SIPP. The reasons for this is it gave her more currency flexibility in terms of euros, GBP, dollars, with her living outside of the UK. But more importantly for the client, Novia Global are allowed to apply an NT tax code to the account, which means the client would not be taxed at source in the United Kingdom on all of her withdrawals from the Novia International SIPP, compared to a James Hay SIPP, which, to be fair, like most UK SIPPs, must tax you at source. So what happened after that, though, was a little bit interesting. When we started speaking with the client, they went to do a very small drawdown. I say small, £20,000, taking a £5,000 PCLS, 25% tax-free amount. So we crystallized £20,000 of the pot. Now, when we spoke to Novia Global, we sent in the withdrawal request as normal. The client actually needed the money quite quickly because she had some work done on her house and she needed to pay the builders. Anyway, what happened was Novia Global came back to us and said, "Hi guys, just to let you know, this 20 grand withdrawal is actually going over the client's lifetime allowance." And we were saying, well, hang on a minute, the pot's 900,000, how's that possible? They informed us that at James Hay, the client had completed numerous withdrawals previously in the past, and obviously each crystallization event uses up a percentage of your lifetime allowance. Clients often get confused in thinking, if I can keep my pot below 1.073 million at the time of writing in 2022, I won't have any lifetime allowance to pay. No, it doesn't work like that. Every time you create a benefit crystallization event, you use a percentage of a lifetime allowance up. So we had this client with £900,000 and we suddenly were realizing she was going to have an LTA charge on anything above circa £20,000. In the end, I think we did £17,000 or £18,000 to get 100% of her lifetime allowance. Now we're having to restart the advice process with the client to understand, are you going to be better off utilizing a QROPS instead of a SIPP? For anybody who's interested, a QROPS has no lifetime allowance tax applied to it. When you transfer from a SIPP, a final salary, a defined contribution scheme into a QROPS, you trigger your BCE 8 event and you pay your lifetime allowance at that point in time, and then the Maltese QROP or wherever it might be has no further lifetime allowance tax at any point throughout your life. So when we spoke to the client about this, the client said, lifetime allowance what? What does this mean? What are you talking about? And it became quite clear to us that in the previous withdrawals with James Hay, I mean, perhaps James Hay did send the information through and perhaps the client didn't see it on page 97 of the documentation, but it didn't seem like the client really had any understanding of the lifetime allowance they'd used up with inside their existing SIPP. Now, in fairness to James Hay, there's not very much most UK residents can do about that. Not many people will use a QROPS because not many people in the UK even know about QROPS, and obviously people in Europe, generally speaking, won't be working with James Hay. It's also important to caveat out the financial advisor that was originally working with the client in Spain was based in the UK. Following Brexit and following the loss of passporting rights, that UK advisor wrote to the client in Spain saying, I can no longer advise you on your account. So it was just a little bit strange for us that a client could have nearly £1 million of a SIPP provider and a financial advisor in the UK, and neither of them apparently seemed to be able to alert the client to their lifetime allowance. As again, I must caveat, I haven't seen the documentation of the percentages and whether or not it was included, but certainly it wasn't an ongoing conversation which had been had between either the client, the SIPP provider, or the financial advisor in the United Kingdom. So again, this is not necessarily a review of all their ongoing service because we haven't done huge amounts of transactions with them, but we have completed a couple of withdrawals, and this point did stand out for us. The other thing that we found difficult when dealing with James Hay was when we asked them for effectively a TER of the entire portfolio. The reason for this is that we want to do a comparison for the client. Okay, you're in the James Hay SIPP. We would like to move you to the Nova Global International SIPP. I want the client to know what are my existing costs and what are going to be my costs after I move. When we requested this information from James Hay, their own costs were very simple. They sent it straight through, what are their own costs of the platform, annual charges, etc. Easy. When it came to the underlying portfolio though, effectively the financial advisor had outsourced the portfolio management to a DFM in the UK, and as such when we asked James Hay, they said, we don't actually know that answer, we will have to ask the DFM. It took weeks for the DFM to get back to them to confirm what the portfolio charges were. We were actually having to call the DFM ourselves and say, hi, we have a letter of authority for this client. We would like the information on what are your charges. It went on and on and on, and it turned out inside the DFM, the client's fund charges were close to around 1 or 1.2%. That's pretty expensive in this day and age when you can use a lot of ETFs to keep the cost of the portfolio down. So in the end for the client, she was able to move from a James Hay SIPP with no financial advisor attached, so she's obviously saving money. The financial advisor had already left her or said they can't work together, so he had removed his 1% fee or whatever it might have been. But when we transferred her to the Nova International SIPP, we were actually able to keep the cost of her portfolio lower than the James Hay SIPP plus the DFM, because we were basically getting rid of a large cost of the DFM. Our ongoing portfolio cost was 0.31 basis points per annum, where I think it was a 67-68% equity weighting. The way we've done this is by blending active and passive strategies together to give the client a perfect balance between active, where you're going into the market, seeing what looks cheap, trying to make strategic decisions, and also passive, where you're just buying the market. FTSE 100, S&P 500, and all of the indexes out there. So effectively, we're able to transfer the client across. She was now having ongoing financial advice. She was inside an international SIPP that she could have NT tax drawdown. She could also hold Euro. The client was thinking of moving to Spain. I was actually thinking of moving to Italy from Spain, and just much more control and advice from a financial advisor. So that video went a little bit longer than I expected, but I hope that gives you a little bit of a better review in terms of the James Hay Modular SIPP. It's also important to note that in the United Kingdom, we're both FCA and Europe and EU SEC licensed in America. So wherever you're watching this, whether you're in the UK, Europe, the USA, or further afield, feel free to get in touch, and we're more than happy to put together a free transfer analysis report for you outlining all your existing costs and charges now versus what your new cost and charges would be inside a SIPP product with us. Guys, please like, share, and comment for the video if you found anything interesting, and as always, book yourself in below for a free consultation with myself or one of our financial advisors, or just drop me a message on WhatsApp. And guys, in the comments, I would love to hear about your experience with James Hay. Perhaps you guys say James Hay is the best SIPP provider you've ever worked with, fantastic levels of service, etc., etc. I'd really love to hear about this to help give a more balanced outlook on James Hay. And likewise, if you've had any bad experiences with the company, feel free to share below so we can try to build our own knowledge here at Cameron James. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and speak with you soon.